शिकवा तो नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी भी लेकिन जिंदगी तो नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी से शिकवा तो नहीं। जी में आता है तेरे दामन में, सर झुका के हम रोते रहे, रोते रहे। जी में आता है तेरे दामन में, सर झुका के हम रोते रहे, रोते रहे। तेरी भी आंखों में आंसुओं की नमी तो नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी से कोई शिकवा तो नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं। तुम जो कह दो तो आज की रात चांद डूबेगा नहीं, रात को रोक लो। तुम जो कह दो तो आज की रात चांद डूबेगा नहीं, रात को रोक लो। रात की बात है और जिंदगी बाकी तो नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी से कोई शिकवा तो नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, शिकवा नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी भी लेकिन जिंदगी तो नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, जिंदगी नहीं, तेरे बिना जिंदगी से शिकवा तो नहीं। ये ज़मीं गा रही है, आसमां गा रहा है, साथ मेरे ये सारा जहां गा रहा है। ये ज़मीं गा रही है, आसमां गा रहा है, साथ मेरे ये सारा जहां गा रहा है।
Awesome. So how are you guys doing? Namaste. How's everyone doing today? Let's see. You need to unmute.
Yeah, namaste. We are doing fine. How are you all doing?
Great, thank you. How's the weather in Trinidad?
It's pretty hot today.
Yeah.
Pretty hot today.
We're having a storm right now.
Wow.
Oh.
Yes. Pandit Neil, namaste. How are you?
Namaste, Didi. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How is the weather in Florida?
Weather, it is hot and sunny. We had all the storms for the past 2 weeks. So I think it calmed down a little bit now. So we're good.
Awesome. As you all know, brother Joe here.
Yes.
He'll be co-hosting with me today. So
we have to call him Shri Joe with that new Hari Om Shara mustache. The beard you have there, Ji.
Namaste, Bhaiya ji.
Good to see you.
Bhaiya Rana, Bhaiya Susan, thank you so much. Namaste, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Rana ji, Susan ji, thank you. Good to see you all. Rana ji, congratulations on your big award today. I'm proud of you, my brother. Yes.
Thank you.
yes, we'll definitely talk about that just now. But before we do that, we would like to do a proper formal introduction. So Joe, take it away.
So we want to begin this afternoon, brothers and sisters. It is more fitting as we show our respect in honoring icons of our dharma, of our religion, of our society, of our culture. First off, from Trinidad and Tobago, Sri Rana Mohip. He played the harmonium and sang at a tender age of 9, and later defined himself as one of Trinidad's leading musicians. 1987, he received a scholarship to study Hindustani classical music in India. Also the recipient of the ICCR scholarship from the government of India, and graduated with a BA in music. 1994, he completed his master's in music and has 5 years of extensive tabla training. He has been featured regularly on all India radio and television stations. Along with, he has toured extensively in India, Canada, United States, Europe, Martinique, Saint Martin, Barbados, Suriname, and Guyana. The co-founder of the Sangeet Mahavidyalaya in Trinidad, and he has performed with the Samaru Jets Steel Orchestra at the Sri Satya Sai World Music Conference in India. Ranaji has recorded several CDs, and in 2006, he launched Sargam International Orchestra. In August 2010, Ranaji trained and conducted a 120-member choir and a 21-piece orchestra at a divine offering to Sri Satya Sai Baba in India. Last year, he received accolades from the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, who tweeted and shared Rana's rendition of Vaishnava Janato, Gandhi's favorite bhajan. At present, he's a senior instructor of music at the Academy for the Performing Arts at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters all across the world, we're profoundly honored to welcome to the program this afternoon, Sri Rana Mohip. Welcome, Bhaiya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaglall.
Thank you very much. And our next guest for today is none other than Mrs. Susan Mohip, who started dancing at the age of 3 years old. That's amazing. At age 7, she was the winner of the Mastana Bahar and the 12 and under competition. She started her training for Kathak dancing from Sri Pradeep Shankar and left Trinidad in 1989 to pursue this art form further in India. She later received a scholarship from India and completed a 3-year diploma program at the Kathak Kendra in New Delhi. She has also studied the various folk dances in India and completed a 3-year course in Hindustani classical vocal training and 2 years of tabla training. She has also toured extensively around the world before settling in Trinidad and Tobago as a successful classical Kathak dancer. She has been on cultural exchanges to Guadeloupe and Guyana, where she performed for the opening of the Sri Satya Sai headquarters. Her latest feat was launching her musical career in 2002 as a successful vocalist. She's currently an instructor at the Academy of Performing Arts at the University of Trinidad and Tobago and co-founder of the Sangeet Mahavidyalaya, we are very pleased and honored to have you as our guest today on the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Namaste to everyone.
Thank you.
And last but not least, someone who I hold a lot of love in my heart for, Pandit Neil Dev Persad, a global spiritual ambassador, Hindu priest, social worker, family counselor, motivational speaker, cultural leader, music teacher, and musical entertainer. He is the current president of Diwali Nagar, USA, current director of the Caribbean Cultural Society of Florida, cultural leader of Amar Jyoti Mandir in Miami, member of the GOPIO, Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, vocal and tabla graduate, Bollywood keyboardist, was the leader of the musical band Sangeet in Canada in 1982 to 88, leader of a musical band, Florida Melody Makers, 1988 to 2016. And he has played for celebrities like Anuradha Parwal, Anup Jalota, Hari Om Sharan, Bankim Pathak, Bablan Kanchan, Sundar Popo, Anand Yankaran, and the list goes on and on. Panditji has conducted yajnas and discourses in many temples and cultural centers in the USA, Canada, Trinidad, Suriname, Jamaica, United States Virgin Islands, Mauritius. He's also a volunteer for many variety of organizations. No stranger to Toronto, no stranger to culture, dharma, and seva. Brothers and sisters, with love, let's welcome to the program this afternoon, Pandit Neil Dev Persad.
Welcome, welcome everybody. I just want this to be like, you know, a nice little conversation that we're gonna have here today. But before we do all of that, it's no doubt that we have here some musical scholars in our presence. And it's only fitting to ask Pandit Neil Dev to start us off with an opening prayer in commemorating the season of Diwali. I know that today is the 4th day, so can you lead us into a little prayer, Pandit?
Yes, before we go into prayer, that I'm humble and honored to be in association with my dear brother Rana ji, and of course Didi Susan ji, stalwarts in their own rights. And certainly you guys, yourself as a hostess of this program, and of course my dear brother Joe, who I've known for several years and certainly shared many stages with him. Ya kundendu tushar har dhavana, ya shubhra vastramrita, ya veena varadanda mandita kara, ya shvet padmasana, Ya Brahmachut Shankar Prabhutibhim Deva Sada Vandita Saman Patu Saraswati Bhagavati Nishesh Jaryapaha Prem se Bula Shakti Devi Saraswati Mata Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you very much, Panditji. That was amazing. And we are in the 4th day of celebration of Diwali. And so my first question to all of you would be, what does Diwali mean to you? For me, I know it signifies a time for self-reflection, forgiving, sharing, and family. So any one of you can start this conversation off.
Yeah, well, Diwali for us here, it's very family oriented. And it's a time where people look forward for being in the festivities. However, this year, due to the global pandemic, it was very different.
Yeah.
So initially we thought that, you know, we may not have any programs, etc., because of what's going on the world over.
Of course.
But surprisingly, we were called out to do many virtual things, and also seeing that we couldn't actually go out to perform. We did a lot of performances, and also here in Trinidad, there's a station by the name of 103 FM Studios. So people weren't able to go to programs. So what they decided to do is have a big 40-foot trailer, a big truck. So artists, we went on the truck and we performed, and they drove throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad. You know,
I saw some of that. Yes.
Yes. So we took Diwali to the people, actually.
Right.
People did not come out to different festivities, etc.
Were you also on those trucks? Were both of you on there?
Yeah, for 2 nights we were there, actually. The last night and one night before that as well.
Right.
So
That's
Diwali
amazing.
in Trinidad is actually also with music and dance, and hence the reason why for us here in Trinidad, singing bhajans, performing, partaking in all the cultural festivities is a very, very important part of celebrating here Diwali. So we were really happy to be also part of that. And we crossed paths with also Panditji as well on Zoom doing, different programs and stuff. So yes, here in Trinidad, it means for me also performing at my best and bringing smiles and love to people.
And as some of you may know, that in Trinidad we have one of the biggest Diwali celebrations outside of India, which is known as Diwali Nagar.
Correct.
So this year also we didn't have the actual Diwali Nagar. However, they showed they entitled it Memories or Yadi, which they featured the artists from previous recordings. And also we were very fortunate also to be performing on ZTV for one complete night on.
I saw your performance. That was amazingly well done. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
So we have been busy over the Diwali period, although we thought that we may not have been.
Correct. Yes. Pandit Neil, how about you?
So I must compliment Ranaji and Didi Suzanji for their performances. I did, as time permitted, catch a few of those as well with all the virtual programs that were in place. I personally left Trinidad for Toronto some 40 years ago in 1980. And that was my 1980, actually, my last Diwali in Trinidad would have been 1979, the actual Diwali day. As Ranaji would tell you, I've for the past maybe 15 years or so, I've been performing at the Diwali Nagar, as he mentioned, the largest celebration, I think, in the world, outdoor celebration in the world. This year would have been here in Florida, our 12th year of Diwali celebrations. We also have a Diwali Nagar here, which I would say is the second largest in the world next to Trinidad, because it is outdoors in Florida and it's huge. Ranaji has performed, definitely performed in it already. For me, Diwali, if I remember the way it used to be in Trinidad, I grew up in a place called Debe in Trinidad. Now, Debe is the capital city for doubles and alupai and polori and all these things. They emerged from the city of Debe. I call it city now because it is a city. And back in the day, in the early 70s and 80s, when I was growing up, people from all across Trinidad will converge on Debe, in Debe, from about 5:30 on Diwali night. And there will be a gridlock of traffic until about 9:30 that night, simply because everyone is coming to feast their eyes on the beautiful light up and the millions of diyas, because in our community, we had Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews, you name it. But every single home was lit up for Diwali because it was a global celebration, a universal celebration. And as Suzanne Didi mentioned, it is a time of love, togetherness, brotherhood, peace. And if you look at the same concept today in this world, where has that love gone? We are missing that concept. Yes, we have all these beautiful celebrations and bhajans and beautiful singing and all of that. But if you go back to those days, in the past, and I'm sure it's the same in Guyana, you all have Diwali parades and things I see as well, which is amazing. But sitting in traffic for 3 hours, looking at diyas and just inhaling the beautiful aroma of the burning oil and the bursting of bamboos. We have the kerosene bamboos that they put the fire in, it makes these loud explosions. Yeah. Now we have all these millions of dollars worth of fireworks that they send off all night, scaring the poor animals. But nevertheless, back then it was a festive season. You would be sharing prasad with your neighbors, your friends. People will be exchanging love, gifts. That is Diwali to me. Yes, we live in some of us here live now in North America, and we are disparate. We are kind of disconnected because of COVID-19. But with social media, we are still able to grasp that feeling. But to me, the question you asked was what is this? What is the true meaning of Diwali? To me, it signified with this greatest four-letter word in this world called love. Bottom line.
Awesome. That's fabulous.
Before we move on, if I may interject here and let our two brothers and our sister know that when this program was sent out to people, the ad was out there, we received requests to say, Pandit Neil, you know the length and breadth of Toronto knows you. They were at Devi Mandir, I think right now, misses you so much.
Me too.
And we have received requests to say, I hope they will sing, you know. And I said, listen, we have three of the best singers here. And definitely we're going to make sure and let them know you can go a cappella whenever you want to. Whatever songs, and while you're talking, give them a line or two, they'll be more than happy. You are allowed to do whatever you want as you see so fit. And all three of you have the ability to do justice to that. As we move on, I want you to think of some of the cultural and religious aspects of Diwali. And here's the question. Is it a religious celebration? Is Diwali, because one of our listeners asked this question, is it a religious celebration or more of a cultural celebration? Now that can take a whole long pravachan given out on it. But in your own words, what will you say to the people listening right now? Any one of you.
So let me jump on that, and then I'll hand over to Ranaji and Susan Didi. So in my mind, it is religious because we are celebrating several aspects here. One, and this seems to be the most popular one, is when Lord Rama returned from his exile from the Battle of Lanka back to Ayodhya, celebrating his coronation. The streets of Ayodhya were lit up in celebration of Diwali. The second concept is when Lord Krishna and Satyabhama, his consort, destroyed the demon Narakasura. So again, as we say in the mantra, says Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. From evil lead us on to good, from darkness lead us on to light, from death lead us on to eternity. And this is where the concept of Deepavali or Diwali, so many different pronunciations for it comes to play. However, growing up in Trinidad and maybe even in Guyana too, where we have a cosmopolitan society, a very multicultural society from so many different races. Everyone celebrates Diwali. So that's where the cultural side of it comes into play. But if you go into countries, like India and Thailand and the Far East, it's primarily confined to, the Hindu diaspora, so to speak. So hopefully that sheds light. I'll hand over to the others.
Okay, well, as Panditji rightly said, there is the spiritual, religious side of it, and also there is the celebratory part of it, the cultural part. In fact, when I was studying in India, I had a friend from Kashmir who was studying along with us, So in Trinidad, we always look at Diwali as religious. It's we will fast for I'm a vegetarian, but normally people will fast for 2-3 weeks, before Diwali, because we at that time there's a lot of prayers. There's no Ratri leading into Diwali. So it was very spiritual, very religious for us. But my friend from Kashmir, however, was telling me that, if it's one day that they have to eat meat, is on Diwali day, because that's their celebration. So you'll find they're partaking of many toxic, drinks and stuff, and it's because for them it's more fireworks and celebration, partaking of other things, so which I was actually shocked to know that, okay, we have gone to India and here we are hearing that they are celebrating in a different way from we here in Trinidad. So there are both sides to it. There's the cultural part of it as the religious side of it as well.
So you would say that what you just explained there is more of a cultural aspect of it than the religious side of it.
More celebratory, because it's for them it's like Christmas Day actually.
Right.
Like in Christmas in Trinidad, of course, everybody's getting their turkey ready and the chicken, etc. So that's the day that they will have that Diwali day.
Right. Susan, what were you going to say? Sorry.
As to what Panditji said and Ranaji said, from my experience with it, I work in an environment that I I have a cross section of people, you know, Africans, you know, Indians, mixed descents. And I can tell you, like, when I do my programs and presenting the cultural aspect, I do, for us, it's not just only culture, it's also the spiritual side of it, it's the religious side of it. And this is where you would see people coming together, you know, gravitating towards this celebration to learn. So for them, it's a learning process. But then for us, it's more of a devotional aspect. So you have these two things marrying into each other. And that's where you will see, you find like barriers are breaking, because then the cross culture of people are actually mixing and also coming together. And that's where the word love comes in, and it sparks for me on Diwali Day.
Correct. But I also find that, you know, even our own Hindu brothers and sisters here in North America, they get a little confused because they're not sure whether is it a religious thing, or is it just, you know, are we celebrating? We're celebrating our new year, basically, a brand new year, right? So it differs like that. And then also based on our religion, we have so many festivities. Like we've got Diwali, we've got Holi, we've got Navratri, to name a few. And there always seems to be this inconsistency when it comes to our Hindu calendar. And Panditji, you can talk a little bit more about this, and as well as you, Ranaji. Why is it that we have such inconsistencies with the dates on these events, especially when it comes to the, you know, holidays like this, or festivities that has to deal with the sighting of the moon, or a full moon, or a dark night, or, you know, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Certainly. Let me take this one first. Your statement, Malaji, about inconsistencies. So the inconsistencies arise because of misunderstandings. In Vedic astrology, all calculations are done based on the moon, the phases of the moon, the time of the moon. It's all calculated by the moon. Now, if you think back into the days of the Vedas and the Shastras, when our scriptures are written, there was no internet, there were no watches or clocks. Everything was done either by the sighting of the sun, the shadow cast by the sun, or the moon. Today, if you go to a place called Jaipur, there's a place called Jantar Mantar. Anaji, you all probably have been there already. All time, all astrological phases are calculated by the shadow of the sun. It's still there, it still exists today. This was the way the kings and princes did it, you know, way back in the ages. My point is that if we focus on this concept about the moon, you know, the phases of the moon, which is where all of our religious holidays are calculated from, time that is, we will never have this inconsistency. Where the inconsistency comes is, I'll tell you where, is when our devotees are not sure, they fail to check with their pandits or spiritual leaders or even their temples or religious organizations, and they depend on Google Baba. You all know Google Baba? Google.com. Google Baba can be dangerous because most of the times if you type in right now, if you type in Deepavali into Google Baba, he will give you a date of Friday, which was Diwali in India, Friday night, which is our Saturday, right? This is how time works, because a lot of our folks, and it happens also for Navratri, for Pitru Paksh, for Holi, India always, right now, I think they're 9.5 hours ahead of us in terms of time in this time zone. So if you go by that time, you're going to be off. And hence people say, well, Baba, why we have 2 days? I'm so tired of Hinduism. We have 2 days for everything. No, it's not that. If you follow the instructions based on our scriptures, Diwali is the Amavasya, the darkest night. And if you look at the phases of the moon, the darkest night was last night. So this is where it is correct. This is how we calculate these things. So if you go based on that trend, there could never be any misconceptions. Again, the misconception comes when you have multiple ways of getting information and you don't do the research.
That is true.
If I can just add to Panditji there also, what I have learned based on geographically where we're living, there are direct descendants of Indians here in Toronto, Florida, and everywhere else. And if they pick up the phone and they call and they speak to Ma, and Ma is celebrating today, then the misconception goes around, well, families are celebrating today, we'll celebrate today. And because there's predominantly a larger mass of people direct from India, and they do it that way, a lot of people get caught up in that also. But Panditji is quite rightly, he touched it, the nail on the head as it is, with the sighting of the moon as it is. Thank you, Panditji.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I agree what Panditji said.
Yeah, both of them actually very correct in what they say. Is because of I think that the diaspora is such that a lot of Indians outside of India, and when, as Joe rightly said, when they're liaise with their relatives and they say that they're celebrating on a particular day, but it all has to do with the moon, you know, as Panditji rightly said. So what happens in India at a particular day, the next day will be 9.5 hours ahead, you know, what happened.
Right. Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about Susan. We're going to put you in the spotlight for a minute here. Susan, I want to ask you, as a woman and as a dancer, I know you left for Trinidad at a very, very young age. I mean, sorry, you left for India at a very young age. I think you were about 19 or so. Yes, about. Okay, I got it correct. What were some of the challenges that you faced as a dancer, for one, and as a woman in this industry?
I won't say much challenges, but there was some when my shift to India, and that was actually adapting into a different culture of learning formally. So those who have followed my career would know that my film background was I'm a very strong dancer. I came from being the film dancing, as we call it back then, the film dance, right? Bollywood only came along very recently, that word. But after going through that period and actually realizing that, you know, I wanted something more, and something a little bit more challenging, where I could actually become more knowledgeable of the fundamentals of dance, reaching to India and actually adapting into that society was different for me. Because everything there was certain rules, regulations. It wasn't as free and spontaneous as I would normally be. You had to follow, you know, techniques, classes, the rules of the classes, the approach of the classes, and I think those were a little bit challenging for me, but did not last very long, because I think by God's grace, my talent was one, and my dedication to this beautiful art form changed very quickly, and I was able to actually master of how to actually adapt and be in a world of classical music and dance. And as a woman, it's challenging when you have to multitask at times, you know, because for me right now, I'm not just a performer. I carry many roles on my shoulders: a mom, a dancer, a choreographer, a teacher, a wife, you know. And those roles, when you are placed in such a center of everything, yes, it is very daunting. But what makes it really very, very well is having a very good husband that supports all of this. And understand.
So it comes back to him then.
Yes,
You know,
it really interlocks.
Susanji, if I may ask you that you're a professional, you've taken the art form of Kathak to a new level. And when we look around in the diaspora or people of Indian origin, we find that even the younger generation, everything is Bollywood, Bollywood, Bollywood. Do you see, from your perspective, that Kathak is dying? If so, why? If not, what are your thoughts on it?
I think where Kathak is now and where it's actually traveling to, everything is becoming very integrated. The contemporary world is what seems to be attracting everyone. What I see is that, what I would stand by is that the fundamentals of dance is extremely important for all of us. We can have talent, but if we are not trained to actually move from just being from one level into another level, and a lot of people might think, you know, being in the Bollywood world, actually trying to fuse classical dance is an easy thing, but it's not. You really have to learn. And I think it's because there is a lot more attention being given to Bollywood. The social media, you look at the movies, it's very easy accessible. So for classical arts, yes, you are the maker of that. You are the presenter of that. You are the producer of that. So you will find that there is just little discrepancies happening. But for those of us who are learning, we are not, I will say it's not something that is dying, but yes, it is actually carried into a different level of what people may think that, you know, this is it. But really and truly, all those dancers that we are seeing coming forward from the professional world, fusing work is really very strained.
Nice.
Thank you for that. My next question is for all of you. What was the deciding factor in your lives that guided you in the direction of music? You're all fantastic musicians. You play several instruments. You were band leaders at some point. So what was it that drove you to this direction that you're in today, currently?
Okay, so I may start off. All right, well, when I started off, basically, I started singing bhajans, as Joe would have read out at the beginning. So it was more of a sort of a spiritual thing with me. You know, that connection, they say that music is the way of communicating with God. That's why when we sing the mantras, etc., we have certain notes that we use. All right, so basically for me, it was all spiritual at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But then early in the 1980s, I joined an orchestra by the name of the Gayatones Indian Orchestra, after which I became the assistant leader next to Kapil Gayadin back then.
Okay.
You know, so myself, I always wanted like a challenge. So anything that Kapil gave me, I would just listen to it and I would just pick it up by just listening. You know, I had that natural born talent. You know, so once I hear a piece of music, I was able to reproduce that. You know, so I listened to some classical music actually. And then, you know, it kind of drew me towards it. You know, what are these guys actually doing? What are they playing? You know, so I became interested in learning classical music, and due to that, it took me to India. You know, where I really studied the Indian classical music, all the ragas, etc. So basically, it is that drew me towards that music. And even when I went to India, it was only for my personal satisfaction. So for the first 2 years in India, I told my Guruji that, you know, I'm not interested in doing any examinations. I just want to learn. He said, no, you should, you know, do the examinations as a must. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go further. And then I took his advice and started, you know, doing all the different examinations from year to year. And thankfully for that, today, I was able to land a job at the university. You know, so basically, although you have that natural talent, I think that people need to nurture that and learn formally. Only then you can be as successful as we are.
Awesome. Pandit Neil?
Can we get a line of that with that melodious voice, please, Ranaji?
I was wondering when that was going to come.
The same line that you were on stage with when you said Susanji kind of liked that song and got a first interest, probably anyone, something. They're telling me that they want to hear something from you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just sing a part of a bhajan. It's very popular. It is based in Rag Bhopali. You know, sa re ga pa dha sa da pa ga re da sa. Hari Sundara Nanda Mukunda Hari Narayana Hari Om Hari Sundara Nanda Mukunda, Hari Narayan Hari Om. Hari Kejava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayan Hari Om. Hari Kejava Hari Govinda, Hari Narayan Hari Om. Hari Sundarananda Mukunda, Hari Narayan Hari Om.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So,
Nice. Very nice. All right. And continuing that same question, Pandit Neil Dev, what's your take on it?
Absolutely. So, Ranaji, beautiful as usual. Always a pleasure to listen to you, Bhaiya. My story is a little bit different. So, at the age of about 6 years, my mom had a urge to learn to play the piano. So my father went down to San Fernando and bought some used piano from some English woman that was leaving the country. Big, huge piano. It took up half the living room, and I could barely reach the keyboard because the piano is at a at a high level. So I had to climb up on the stool to reach the keyboard. And sometimes I'll be horsing around with the keyboard, the cover will fall and hit me on my hand, all the pain and whatnot. So she started taking lessons, and one day my dad went out, and when he came back home, he heard the song Ek Pyar Ka Nagama Hai being played on the piano. So he came upstairs and he gave my mom a big hug. He says, "My dear, your lessons are paying off. You're sounding well." She goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Weren't you just playing that song, Ek Pyar Ka Nagama Hai?" She says, "No, that was your son. Go and see." So it was me with my one finger playing Ek Pyar Ka Nagama Hai.
Wow.
That was in somewhere around May or June of that year. And by Christmas of that year, I had gotten my first electronic keyboard. 3 times the size of me, of course, and 2 layers of keys. Ranaji, you probably remember the old Yamaha double keyboards. I think Bhai Karamchan used to play one of those. And for me, that was the best Christmas gift ever, because I started playing and eventually started making music out of it. But as a little kid getting this toy, first one in the entire village, I would have to turn the volume all the way up so the entire village can hear what I was playing. So it had its own rhythm section and everything. And before you knew it, the guys in the temple up the hill, they heard that I could play a little bit keyboard. So they came and they asked my father, again at 7 years old, can we have Neil come and play Sunday mornings at the service? And that's started there at the temple. And then that led to other things, joining the Ramayana group and so forth. In 1979, my parents visited India, and they actually went to Puttaparthi and had a private interview with Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. They were given vibhuti and all of that privately by him. And I think they had prayed to him and asked him for their son to start singing. And when they came back to Trinidad that year, I sang for the very first time in a satsang, in a Ramayana satsang. And I remember this very well. And Rana, you could attest to this. When I finished sang my bhajan, my kurta was soaking wet with perspiration. Not because the place was hot, fright, from stage fright. But that was it. That was the end of it. From that point, I started taking music lessons from Professor H.S. Adesh, who we all know very well. And then one of my friends, a good brother of mine, his name is Budlal Samaru. He's an excellent drummer. And then I migrated to Canada in 1980, as I mentioned. There, I spent about 1.5 years with Sri Bansraj Ramkisunji, learned quite a bit from him, and also played music with Karamchand Maharaji, the Ustad himself. And that's where I got my little bit of Bollywood exposure in terms of, keyboard music, band music, and so forth. But singing really took off for me. I remember growing up, again in Trinidad, I would take a ruler and stand in front of the mirror and pretend I was singing into an audience. And right then, a gentleman from Guyana by the name of Devendra Puran had just launched an album recorded by the BWI National Indian Orchestra in Trinidad, Hari Mahabir, the late Hari Mahabir. All Mukesh songs, and Mukesh was always a fan of mine. I was always a fan of Mukesh ji. And I took a liking to his style of singing. I said, I'm going to sing like this one day. And it just morphed from that point on. Nevertheless, my scholastic education took precedence. My father said, focus on this first, then your music will come after. And he was right to some degree. So I did that and, finished schooling and whatnot. Then I got involved with some guys in Toronto, my uncle Mohan Samlal being one of them. We formed Sangeet Canada, one of the first Indian bands in Canada. And then when I moved here, we formed the Florida Melody Makers, which, Joji, you rattle off some of the great names that we performed with. But for me, it's more of the devotional side of it, because that is where I think my niche was, my sweet spot was in the devotional side. and to really sing for Bhagwan. And I try to inspire others by, firstly, and pronunciation. If you're going to sing something, if you're going to imitate someone, please get the pronunciation correct. It makes a whole lot of difference. And then understand what you're singing, because if you know what you're singing, this is why our North American artists, when they sing, it's in English and they understand, they put all the emotions, even tears sometimes comes, when you understand what you sing. So my advice is, and this is from me growing up in music and so many different aspects of it, is that pronounce properly, understand what you're singing, and sing from your heart. Not just to entertain an audience. Sing from your heart, because on stage, yes, you're entertaining the audience, everybody's dancing, whatever, but it's really you that you're expressing yourself, your exposure, your facial expressions. Same thing like Susan did, he will tell you in dancing, your facial expression, you're enjoying yourself. And that is music. Music is the food of the gods. And if it's not sweet, how could you enjoy it? How could the gods enjoy it? So that's my 2 cents.
So Pandit Neil ji,
Yes,
that first song that you were talking about, Pyar Ka Nagma Hai, how does it go? I don't.
I should have known better, Joe. We'll do one verse of it. तू धार है नदिया की, मैं तेरा किनारा हूँ, तू मेरा सहारा है, मैं तेरा सहारा हूँ, आशा के समुंदर है, आशाओं का पानी है, जिंदगी और कुछ भी नहीं, तेरी मेरी कहानी है, एक प्यार का नगमा है.
Beautiful, beautiful, Bhaiya, beautiful. And as I asked Malaji to prepare, we have a little clip. We cannot let Bahin Susan Ji go by without people not seeing her gracefulness on stage. But while Malaji is preparing that, I want to recall and bring Bhai Rana Ji's memory back to Guyana. Approximately, I think about 25 years ago, you visited the Vredenhoop Sai Center. And brother, I heard you mesmerize them with your sweetly intoned voice. Do you recall that time?
Yes, I remember. Actually, my brother-in-law, who is Ashwini Kupchan.
Kupchan, yes?
Yes, Pandit Kupchan's son from Guyana.
Yes.
So he's my sister.
Really?
Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because he's a relative of mine.
Okay. Yes, the whole crew, Dr. Beanie Balkaran and all of those.
Yeah.
Your sister,
Wow,
right?
that's so Ashwini is my mom's first cousin.
Okay.
Their fathers are brothers.
Okay.
So brothers and sisters, when I tell you we're in the living room talking, brothers and sisters, you see, we're all
Brothers and sisters.
That's amazing. Wow. I've always looked up to him. He's a fantastic singer and musician as well, too.
Yes,
Their entire family.
So Ranaji, I spoke to some people who said when they heard you were in the program and they referred to you with so much love. For example, they said they were little girls at that time when you went to Mandir. And her words to me were, what you have done there inspired them much more in the Sai organization and motivated them. Like Sunandaji, she owns Tandavam Culture and Arts. And I've worked with her closely in many humanitarian missions also. But many of these people were motivated by you 25 years back, what you have done. So I salute you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, what was your experience like then when you went to Guyana at that time?
Well, I had visited Guyana several times, and we also went for the opening of the new Sai Center in Guyana, the first Sai Center actually, and it was a really nice experience. We met a lot of people, In fact, recently I've been asked, well, I was asked to coordinate a Khan Bhajan, which actually just ended actually at 6 o'clock today. So I was the coordinator for the Western region. So I had to deal with people from Barbados, Guyana, Suriname, Jamaica, and all these countries. So in fact, someone from Guyana I connected with who also was a relative of Pandit Kupchan, and they were surprised to know that, okay, this is the same Rana who came back then, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Mom, do you have that little clip that we'd like to
Yes.
feature?
I'm going to share my screen now to get it. So let's bear with me for a couple of seconds here, everyone. So that was a little taste of what you are. Such an amazing, amazing dancer. Like I watched that, such a very long clip. I think it's about 12 minutes long or
Yes,
something like that.
yes.
And it was fabulous because when I was watching it, I just couldn't stop taking my eyes off of you and your movements. You're an amazing dancer. I have to give that to you. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's get back to classical music. Now, I know you guys are, all three of you have learned classical music, Hindustani music, vocals. You play various instruments as well too. How important is it for a singer to learn classical music?
Okay, so I'll start off here. Okay, so if you're going to build a house, right, the first thing you need to have is a good foundation. Otherwise, the house may fall at some point in time, in an earthquake or a hurricane or something like that. So this is how the relevance of classical music to your vocal training, that is. Because, you know, classical music helps you to build that foundation of singing, basically. If you're into vocals or music, as the case may be, it's very important that you learn the basics, or what we call the basic thing of swar and lay, or musical notes and rhythm. You know, these are the two important elements of music. One is having the correct notes or swar, and the other one is lay or rhythm. So classical music basically, in fact, here in Trinidad, I have a lot of students. They sing all different types of music, even English music. I have some students who sing chutney soca. I have some students who sing just chutney as well. I have students who into the Bollywood, but what I explain to them is that you need to have a good foundation, so that you can build on whatever art you choose later on to go into.
How did that conversation go over? Did it take you up on that?
Yeah, up to now I still have students who actually I wouldn't want to call any names, but very popular in the chutney soca industry, very even the chutney music industry, because they also realize that their classical training is it's basically the foundation to build on that later on. Yes.
So then, therefore, after this conversation is over, I think I need to get in contact with you to get some training too.
Sure. Actually, the reason I don't want to call any names as well is because I am also an adjudicator in many different competitions.
Okay.
Only recently, actually, Pandit Neil Persad and myself, we were involved in a virtual global competition called Ghana Tarana. You may have heard about it.
Yeah.
Both of us were heavily involved in that. So, we have to be very careful in terms, because we may find some of our students also performing in those competitions. So we have to be very mindful if we should be judging or not, as the case may be. So it's very important that, you have your foundation in classical music, basically.
Ranaji, do you offer any type of online classical training?
Well, I do have a few students who are online. In fact, I teach at the university, and since March, we have gone totally online classes at the university as well. And I do have some private students who still come on. I have some Zoom classes, and also my regular classes, which I normally have in San Fernando and Chabon, etc. Right now, we are only on Zoom.
Right.
Yes.
Pandit Neil, you also teach music as well, right? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yeah, I used to, and mainly to children, at the local temple here. But the constraints of time now, with all other commitments with work, I do work full time as well. And with Pandita, it's taken a toll in terms of making time for teaching. If I may, I want to go back to the question that was posed to us earlier about classical training with regards to singing.
Yes.
I'm going to be a little bit more critical than Ranaji. Ranaji is the expert, of course. He's got his masters and so forth. But for me, from what I've seen, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but this is being realistic. The minute that a potential singer, listens to and I pick on Kumar Sanu because he's the biggest catalyst, I think, in this region. The minute they sound like Kumar Sanu and in that nasal cavity, with the and that ringing type of song, I'm a good singer. I am going to be a Bollywood singer. And if you really understand the classical training in terms of the ragas and the scales and the variations and how to really bring out the sweetness of the voice, that has no bearing on that person becoming a singer. Again, I don't want to be critical, but it's the only way to get the point across. I'm not condemning anyone. But until you really understand, if you go to Ranaji or any of the musical gurus and understand the notes and the ragas and how to blend your voice in between, how to really bring out the sweetness, you fail on majestic scales in terms of on how really to portray your voice. So to me, the little classical training that I had, it certainly helped. And I would recommend that to anybody, at least get some of it. Understand the scales, understand the ragas, how to modulate your voice, where to stop, where to stress, things like this. And not just focus on that nasal, I'm sounding like Kumar Sanu, I can sing like Arjit Singh or whatever. That doesn't add up. When you really get in front, Ranaji just mentioned, we just came out of this big global competition called Ghana Tarana, hundreds of contestants from all over. But you can tell right away the ones that were classically trained or not. And it makes a difference. It makes you stand out. So for all those youngsters, and I know in Toronto especially, there are numerous gurus, musical gurus, I can name several of them. Take advantage of this at your early age. Don't wait till it's time to go to college, because you won't have, I guarantee you won't have the time. take it now and put that into practice and practice it. Do your riyaz, your vocal training every day. It helps. It will certainly help. My 2 cents.
Awesome. And on the question of riyaz, which is training, do you recommend training every single day?
Like food, 3 times a day.
Oh, I don't have time 3 times a day.
If you're driving, you can do riyaz.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, true. Okay, sorry, Joe, sorry for interrupting you.
Talking about riyaz, I just wanted to stress on that it is very important that for vocal practice, actually, you do your riyaz in the morning period, because that's when your voice is at its lowest peak, and it's the best time to do your riyaz early in the morning, for vocals, that is.
Right.
Somebody watching at the 3 of you, we see an image of a human being. But just to understand the intensity of training and understanding that goes in your mind and in the background. So what Pandit Neil said there, to the ones who want to excel, certainly so true. Pandit Neil, I've seen you in action. I've seen you in action in terms of on both sides, culturally and religiously. And also along with what you're saying, what I see coming out of you is a lot of devotion and love. And the humility, and none of you need this accolade. You don't need to be polished or pumped up. But if we don't say it, if we don't sing the praises of our mothers, and who do? If we don't sing the praises of all of you, our leaders, our gurus in this spiritual and cultural movement, then who will? And I've watched you, brother, and I've seen how you've moved audience, and not most that only. Do you remember when you came for Savor for Life?
Yes.
Okay. And when they call on Pandit Neil, will you come, will you perform for us? He said, absolutely yes. And when they talk about his ticket, he says, no, I was told this. No, I am paying my own ticket to come. And the amount of times he is in Toronto, here is a human being who has the love for what he does. I watched you in India when you were there and you were stuck in COVID time, but you took up your phone and you used the medium to spread your pravachan to the world. And the same thing with Ranaji and Bahenji. I'm sure when you were inspired and you're motivated to go and make a difference to God's children, the same flows in all 3 of your veins. So today, both Mala and I were privileged and humbled to have all 3 of you on the same platform.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And going back to this question about training as well, we know that a lot of the Bollywood singers would say that rags for them is like, classical music or bhajan groups. Can you explain how Bollywood songs are composed and what rags are used and what difference does the variations of the rags makes to the song?
Sure, no problem. Basically, when I went to study in India, here in the Western world, everybody wants everything fast. In terms of even learning, we think that, we need to do certain things very fast in order to learn quickly. But believe it or not, when I was studying in India, for 1 year, my Guruji, my teacher, he taught us 1 rag. For 1 year, every single day. Now that may be hard to believe as well. How much?
1 year, every single day, wow.
Every single day for 1 year, we learned 1 rag. And that rag is a rag by the name of Rag Bihar. But he went so much into depth of that particular rag. You know exactly how to go about creating different melodies, different ways of singing the same thing over and over again. What we call bol alap, where we take one line or a couple words and sing that in many different ways. So for 1 year, we learned that, and afterwards, we used that same technique that we learned there in other ragas as well, like Rag Kalyan, Rag Bhupali, Rag Kafi, Rag Bimpalasi. We used that technique that we learned actually to develop the different ragas that we learned later on. So this is the importance of the learning. In fact, one thing really stands out when I completed my master's degree after 7.5 years learning in India, I went to my Guruji, I bought a box of sweets, because I was one of the students who came. In fact, a lot of students in India did that exam, and apparently I came second in the entire country for my master's program. So I went and I bought sweets and I took it from my Guruji. And I said, Guruji, I'm so happy today that I've completed my studies, and I want to present this box of sweets to you. So he said that now that you have gotten this piece of paper, meaning the certificate, are you ready to learn Rag Bhopali properly? Meaning, the first rag we learned back then when I just started, after learning all the different Alankar exercises, was Rag Bhopali. So he told me that now that I've gotten this piece of paper, let's sit now and learn Rag Bhopali the proper way. That just goes to show how vast even one rag is. In perfecting that particular rag. You kind of never perfect music. You could reach a certain level. I tell people up to today, I am also still learning. Many people told me, oh, yes, so, you have attained so much in music. I said, no, I'm still a student of music and I'm still learning.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. Susan, I need to ask you this. You have always been interested in dancing. Why did you want to become a vocalist?
So my experience is completely different from Panditji and Ranaji.
Okay.
Completely different. So my first, experience with this was because of my training in dance. You had to learn vocal music as well. You had to learn tabla as well, harmonium as well. So my course that I was doing had these components that you had to complete. So here I was placed among these ragas in this classroom, learning Sare Gama Padanisa. One thing that stood out to me was that sur means how you sing sa and re and ga is very important. You just can't just sing it. And I think that's what also reflects into people who love to sing even all the Bollywood songs, but understanding where those notes are is extremely important. Like I love to hear Alka-ji sing. I'm one of her biggest fans. I sing a lot of her songs, but to me, what makes me listen to her is basically her voice and her sur, means her tone, how she carries it. So there I was placed in this classroom and I'm going sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, exactly what Ranaji is saying, and I was like completely lost. I said, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't have a voice. I came one day crying to Rana literally because I had an exam and I said, I don't have a voice to sing. What am I going to do? It was my first exam. And he said, no, you do have a voice. Everybody has a voice. This is a man that got me through my music in India. So there was a play that happened. And coming back home after learning for my study, I had to learn these rags because my music, I had to compose my own music. I was faced with him into every performance of his singing. So there I was. And then I was literally said, you're not singing? Why don't you sing? Why don't you sing? And then it rubbed off literally. I call it the Trini language of being rubbed. One rubs off on the other. I tried to teach him dance, but no.
That would have been a sight for sure.
Yes. So my experience, what made me really start is discovering one, I had a voice that could actually translate into this beautiful musical world. And yes, being married to a musician, something, definitely rubs off, and that would be singing,
Absolutely.
vocals.
Well, just to compliment the both of you right now. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Pause here for a minute. Seeing that we know that both of them sang before, let's bring up that duet.
Absolutely. That's what I was just going to do.
That duet that they both sang together.
Right.
And here it goes, the fabulous duo of Susan Ji and Rana Ji.
किया है प्यार जिसे जिंदगी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हम जिंदगी की तरह वो आशिना में मिला हमसे अजनबी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हम जिंदगी की तरह
किसी खबर की पड़ेगी पुजोर तारीकी किसी खबर की पड़ेगी पुजोर तारीकी छुपेगा वो किसी बदली में चांदनी की तरह
वो आशिना भी मिला हमसे अजनबी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हम जिंदगी की तरह बना के प्यास मेरी उसने हाथ जोड़ दिया बना के प्यास मेरी उसने हाथ जोड़ दिया वो कर रहा था मुदाबत भी दिल लगी की तरह वो आशिना भी मिला हमसे अजनबी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हम जिंदगी की तरह
सितम तो ये है कि वो भी न बन सका
सितम तो ये है कि वो भी न बन सका अपना कबूल हमने की जिसकी हम खुशी की तरह वो आशिना भी मिला हमसे अजनबी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हमने जिंदगी की तरह किया है प्यार जिसे हमने जिंदगी की तरह हमने जिंदगी की तरह हमने जिंदगी की तरह
I have thoroughly enjoyed that every time. Our very own from Trinidad, Chitra and Jagjit Singh. Oh my God, melodiously put together. Thank you. So, and look, Pandit Neil is smiling too. He enjoyed that thoroughly.
Well, we also have a clip from Pandit Neil, and I think it's only fitting for me to play that right now as well too. Let's do that. I'm sure he doesn't know what I'm gonna play.
I have no idea.
Let's see. This one.
वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, काहे को राग मचाए मचाए, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, काहे तो राग मचाए मचाए, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई। दे दूंगी कहे कसमें खाई, दे दूंगी कहे कसमें खाई, कहाँ छुपाई पर ना बताई, कहाँ छुपाई पर ना बताई, नटखट करत तिहाई तिहाई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, काहे को राग मचाए मचाए, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई। ना तेरी बैरन ना तेरी सौतन, सौतन सौतन, ना तेरी बैरन ना तेरी सौतन, मेरी मुरलिया मोहे सबका मन, मेरी मुरलिया मोहे सबका मन, कर तेरी कौन बुराई बुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, बंसेरी चुराई क्या तेरे मन आई, काहे तो राग मचाए मचाए, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई, राधिके तूने बंसेरी चुराई।
The one and only Pandit Neil Dave with that rich voice. I call it the masala voice. You know, the type of masala that makes a good curry mango. Or,
Yeah.
how can you do without it? When you open those vocals and you sing, it's just the hairs raise on someone's. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Toronto as they feel you. The many, many times you come and you hug us in your bosom. Brothers and sisters, that was Pandit Neil Dave. Amazing.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I just love this, that you guys can, you know, you're not only a pundit and you don't just do devotionals, but you do a lot more as well too. I also have the clip from when you did the song with Anuradha Padwell. It's well, which one was it, Joe? Pool to me.
Pool tumhe bheja.
Pool to me. It was really, really good. Do you think we have time to play a little clip now?
We've got a rapid round that I really want to have some fun with.
But hold up a second. Before we go into the rapid round, I have another question I want to ask. And
Sure.
this is for our lovely couple up here. And I'm dying to ask this question. Can you guess what I'm going to ask you? Where did you guys meet?
Okay, we met right here in Trinidad. In fact,
Ah,
when I started playing music with the Gayatons Indian Orchestra. Actually, Susan was a dancer at that point, and she used to go around performing with the band as well.
oh, okay.
You know, so I was a musician, she was a dancer with the band, and we went on a tour to Canada actually in 1986. Yeah, the band went on a tour to Toronto, Montreal in 1986, and you know, things started happening back then, yes. But you know, with Susan's mom around, you had to be very, very careful.
Okay, we
Yeah.
don't want to know all the nitty-gritties of it.
Right, okay.
I'll put it to you this way. He literally took permission and ran me around the trees at Niagara Falls.
Oh, goodness. That's awesome, because I was thinking that, you know, I was looking at both your biographies and I was thinking that maybe you both met in India during your training.
We blossomed in India, but really met in Trinidad, came back to Trinidad.
Awesome. That's fabulous. All right. Okay.
I want to ask all three of you, our brothers and sisters, as we're winding down closer to the end of the program, if you may think of one moment in your career, whether it be humanitarian, cultural, religious, what is the most inspiring moment or a defining moment that lets you to where you are right now?
Well, I would say because of, as most of you know, I'm a devotee of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. So when I was asked to coordinate a choir of 120 people and also an orchestra, and we were getting the opportunity to perform at the feet of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And I had the opportunity to actually go and touch his feet and offer him a rose, etc. You know, that was, you know, what can a musician ask for? You know, other than to be with the Lord in terms of being there in his presence and being able to, you know, have that connection, you know, not really, the way I look at it is not really performing for the Lord, but offering my services as a musician to the Lord himself. I mean, to me, that's the greatest gift that I've received musically.
Mhm.
Susanji?
Being blessed by Swami as well, being blessed, being able to touch his feet. There are many instances, and actually having the confidence to travel from one extreme career to the next with such confidence and blessings by the Lord himself. Yes.
Actually, many people don't know this, but when Susan and I decided that we want to get engaged, we went to Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And before we got engaged, Swamiji came and he blessed our engagement rings. So that's the connection we have, you know. So in terms of our marriage was blessed by the boss himself, you know, so
Yeah.
we are very fortunate.
Yes.
Panditji?
I have to say I commend Ranaji and Susanji. I'm also a devotee, as you know, of Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. And all of my kathas, I say all of them, are infused by his blessings. I tell people that I'm just a medium. It's all his willing. It's all his divine glories. My most memorable moment came from, and I always respect Dadaji, the late Pandit Hariom Sharanji. He visited the USA on his last tour before he died in New York City. He was in Florida. And I had the opportunity to perform with him, to play music for him. He came to my home and he sat with my harmonium and he sang. And he was blind at the time. Nobody knew this. He was blind. He couldn't see, but his beautiful voice. And he asked me to sing. He just out of the blues, blind as he was. But his inner senses were still intact. And I sang one or two lines of his song, Koi Mere Prano Me, one of his bhajans actually. And he came and he took his hands like this and he touched my forehead. And then he held onto my face like this. And he says, my son, you will go very far. And that's just his only words. He says, you have my ultimate blessing. I went down and I kissed his feet. And to me, that was the greatest blessing as I felt, as someone who has had the image of Hanuman Baba in his career as a singer, as a composer, as a poet, to give me that darshan and give me that blessing. To me, that was like the light in my life. I think that's when the spirituality really took off for me. So beautiful moments, can't compare.
If I may add quickly to that, this show is not about us, but I understand what you're saying, because his last performance in Canada, at that time I was the host of the first Arya Samaj internet radio in the world. I sold the most tickets and I was the only one who get to interview him. And it was such a profound moment for me, because I was a tiny little boy when I hear all his bhajans being sung in Guyana. And to finally be able to meet with him and feel that, I understand, and excellent. So one follow-up question to that, Mal, is that we just came off Diwali. If you, or there are people, non-Hindus online right now, and they're watching us, they're listening to us, if it's a parting message on Diwali that you want to leave or give to any one of them, a few lines, what would you say to people on this festive occasion of Diwali?
So let me lead off, and guys, I do have a hard stop here in about 5 minutes because I have a live birthday celebration satsang at the top of the hour. So please, I beg your pardon. My message was simple, and I did this message for Diwali as well. Diwali, in addition to lighting the external lights, which we did last night, there's so many beautiful lights and fireworks and everything like that. Some of us, not here, but some people miss the real importance of Diwali, which is lighting that flame, that light that it's inside of us. And you see, when that light, that flame, that lotus is lit in our heart, the only thing that emanates from that flame is love. And once that love emanates and it engulfs this body, you tend to emanate that throughout the people that are close to you, and eventually all of mankind, all of this universe. So the words tamasoma jyotirgamaya, move us from darkness onto light. And that is the spirit of Diwali. Emanate love, positivity, love all, serve all, as our great Swami says. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Panditji. I know that you have to run because you've got something else, and we just want to thank you very much for being on the program, and you're free to leave at any moment that you feel
thank you
necessary.
I am honored and humbled to be in your company, and as well as my dear brother and Didi, Ranaji and Susanji. Thank you so much.
But we do have something else planned for Mr. and Mrs. Ranaji. We have the rapid fire questions.
Well, what we can do, we can get Panditji to give us 2 minutes more just to be part of that. It's a little fun something,
Sure. Okay.
Okay. If you feel like you've got to go, you just let us know.
No problem.
Okay. All right. So here's it. It's 7 questions, rapid fire, and you guys gonna go one after the other. I'll say what it is, and then you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Your favorite food?
Paneer.
Paneer.
Panditji?
Paneer.
Okay. Your favorite pastime?
Music.
Dance.
Dance. Okay. Best movie you ever watched?
Silsila.
Pakiza.
Okay. What is love?
Love is being who you are naturally.
Love is when you emanate positivity and joy from your heart.
Kabhi kabhi mere dil mein khayal aata hai. Love is life.
What is karma?
Actions.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Awesome. What is your pet peeve?
Travel.
Travel.
Same here. Travel.
Oh my goodness.
Travel.
What is your favorite song?
Oh.
Oh my.
Kiya hai pyar.
I'll go with them.
Well, you guys have been such good sports today. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure being here with you
I've got to go.
all. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Panditji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
We
being
love
on.
you.
Thank you. Okay, so we can close off this session with the two of you giving a little inspirational message to anyone that's listening out there. We have quite the lineup of viewers on Facebook right now. And Joe, would you like to give a little shout out to anybody on Facebook right now?
We have had so many people on right now. Hemo Chatu, Rajendra Singh, Indrani Bikram, Vimal Jaglall, Marianne Lu, Manti, Gail Shastri, Siv Kumar Sahadia from Guyana, from England, Shastri Singh, Ramnarayan Sesnarayan, Sati Ramjas, right here in Markham, Mahendra Bechan, and the list goes on, Sunita Gabran. A lot of people, there were a lot of comments that by Ranaji that they were agreeing with you, Bahenji and Panditji, based on your explanations as we were going on. But because it was so intense, we weren't able to keep going back and forth to them because, you know, we lost like 90 minutes in the beginning. Billy Sahadat is on, Sesnarayan George, Anasuya Ramkaran, Rukmini Narayan, Sitaram Panditji, hail Sitaram, I'm watching, God's blessings. When you were singing wonderful tune, Rukmini is on, and it goes on. And we want to say thank you to everyone who's locked in. You can keep sharing the link. It will still be on so that you can share it with your family and friends that they can enjoy these, our personalities and brothers and sisters that we have had on today.
And of course, the entire recording will be on my YouTube channel at the end of it all. So it will be uploaded sometime tonight as well, so that everyone can have a look at it again if they want to view it. So let us hear what you have to say to anyone who's listening out there, whether it be a spiritual message, an inspirational message, whatever you like.
Okay, so what I'll say in order to be successful at anything that you choose to be, you know, two things are necessary. One, self-effort. You must put in the practice, the hard work that is there to be successful in your art. And the second thing is the Lord's grace. You know, in order to be, as the Lord says, you take one step towards me, I take 10 towards you. So that self-effort is very important, whether it be in music, in dance, in the art, in any field that you choose to do in life. Self-effort is definitely needed, and the Lord's peace. That's my message.
Yes.
Awesome.
And Ranaji, to also, knowledge is power, knowledge is devotion, and knowledge is a study. When you have gained knowledge, when you have learned, when you have gone through the process, always remember that the more you have learned and you have applied to your art, it's what is going to stand out forever. Talent is one thing, foundation is another. It becomes your being, it becomes you, and it's then you can create magic.
Awesome. That's fabulous. And I hope that all of our young musicians and singers are watching, because you've both been such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration for me, that is. And I don't know about you, Joe. What do you think?
You know, I'm scared to open my mouth now to even say this word, because Ranaji can tell that where is this pronunciation coming from? No, I'm just kidding, Bhaiya. But both of you are so humble in your disposition, including Panditji.
That's also the plus point of being a good artist. Humility is very essential for an artist. You know, the more you learn, you realize the more there is to learn.
Exactly.
And that also comes from a platform of being a disciplined, trained personality where you're able to understand life and its journey. But much more so, if you think, Bhaiya, what you have in your hands right now in Bahenji and Panditji, and even all of us to a certain minute extent, that we can go this way with the bottle and the different types of things, or we can go Bhagwan's way, God's way. And the lives that we will touch and the difference that we make, and I'm sure that both of you find satisfaction in that you're achieving something, you've been placed on this earth for a certain purpose. And I always say, and I told Bahin Mala this, that the little buddhi that we have, if our actions do not follow, then whatever is given to us, if we use it wrongfully, it will be taken away. And to my brothers and sisters listening to us on Facebook land, today we have been blessed, and I truly feel I've never met both of you personally, but I've gone through both of your bio, I've listened to you, I've gone through on YouTube, plus I spoke with people like Sunandaji, who I hold in high esteem, and talk to me about what you are. And today we feel blessed that you're able to be on this program here. And I hope that it can be many, many more in advance, many, many more programs that in due course that we can be able to meet face to face also. And to all of our brothers and sisters, as we just celebrated Diwali, Diwali's come and gone. Where do we go from here now? We prayed to Mother Lakshmi to give us wealth. We prayed for light, and it's gone, and we've been doing the same prayer, but are we making internal changes in our personality to make sure that that outer light has been kindled in, and the inner light of God's prayer that lies in the recesses of our hearts magnifies into something greater that will allow us to touch lives? Come, brothers and sisters, all around the world, whether you believe in Vedic Satya Sanatan Dharma or Christianity or Muslim, all of us, Bhai Ranaji and Bahenji, we all want the same thing. We all want that peace, Om Shanti, both inwardly and outwardly. Whatever way we know how best, let us strive every day, as Bhai Rana said. You put on the keys of your car and you're driving, you can do your chanting then. You're in the shower, do your chanting. Let us stay connected to our God.
Thank you very much, Pandit Joe Jaglall.
And I'm coming back in there, and I want to close off with a song, okay, Mal?
Okay, perfect. No problem. I hope you get the harmonium ready. Well, I think it's been one of the most inspirational and informative segments that I've had on the program so far. And I must say a huge thank you to the both of you, and also to Pandit Neil Dev for accepting my invitation. I was a little bit apprehensive about calling you because I'm thinking you guys are like this. You have this mountainous personality in music and dance, and what am I going to be talking to you about? That was my biggest fear. But here you are, and you've accepted my humble invitation, and I'm so pleased and so honored to have you both here, including Pandit Neil Dev. So thank you very, very much.
Happy that you invited us to join with you in this program.
Thank you. And I will do my best as well to continue in providing such wonderful programming to our viewers, and to everyone who's logged on to Facebook right now. I want to thank you all very much for logging in. Please continue to share the page so that we can pass this segment on to anyone else who have missed it. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. And I thank you both humbly for being here and for sharing your stories with us and some very, very good tips on, singing, dancing, and the importance of learning classical music, which I will definitely be talking to you guys about later on, for sure.
So Bhairanaji, when I asked that question, who I was asking it for, right? So about online.
Right, okay.
Online training. Yes,
So,
of course. Of
So
course.
as we close off this program today, I must give compliment to our sister Behin Mala. And I say this because we started this program, I started it with her all because of COVID, and just to fill a little void. And the one thing we said, but we have to stay consistent. When I say we, I mean her. And she was consistent every Sunday, regardless how many people are on. And she tried to give a platform to people, whether it's religious, social. Well, first program I think we did, Mal, was on Abitunes Radio Hanuman Jayanti.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it sprang off to this here. And you did shows with people in South Africa, Guyana. We've had politicians also from Guyana too. And today, and everybody knows that Mala is also a singer, performed in Trinidad also.
I'm trying and I'm learning. I really am. I'm learning.
So here is a try that she has done, according to her own words, but a beautiful rendition of a Diwali song that came out yesterday. And as such, we'd like to close the program today with that rendition. For our viewers, you can find that on her page. You can find it on YouTube. And Mal, I'm taking liberty to ask you that for us to play that as we ease everybody out of today's program. But brothers and sisters, as we leave today's program, the episode of Deepavali or Diwali, let's do so with an inner feeling of knowing that life is an experience. And this experience of not what we know alone, but how do we transfer that into our actions of what we do?
Thank you very much. And thank you, Joe, for being on with me and co-hosting this segment. I truly appreciate you. You've always been an inspiration to me, and you're a wealth of knowledge to me. And I know that I can call you at any moment in time, any hour of the day, if I ever need any help, and you're always there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
To my esteemed guests, thank you again, once again. Thank you so much. Awesome. And I'm going to play that song right now. And to all of our viewers, I hope you enjoy my little Diwali contribution here. Thank you.
तू ही
So thank you everybody for watching. Until we meet again next week, same time, same place. Until then, have a safe week ahead, and thank you all so much for watching.